happens so often. Yeah, the snakes from the swamps can capture men and women. Are y'all gonna pray with me a little bit? Men and women, men and women. I need to ask a few questions. How many men in the house? Yes, sir. Okay. You ain't the only man here, Dennis. How many women in the house? I need to pose something to you. Perhaps you're not sipping from infested swampy waters. Maybe in your brilliance you have some self-dug wells, and you've been not sipping out of swampy waters, but you are sipping from your self-dug wells. You made some private wells. You dug them for yourself, and one of the wells from which you've dug is a promiscuous lifestyle. Man, you're suave, you're debonair, you got a walk that turns women on. Woman, you're fine and foxy, charming. You know how to look. You know how to bat your eyes. You know how to smell sweet. And you've been sipping, not from swampy water, but from your self-dug well. But there's something I got to tell us. Self-dug wells eventually run dry. Can I talk to you in here? They'll run dry, they'll run dry, they'll run dry. What are you going to do when your self-dug well runs dry? You look back over your shoulder, you see how many men your charm and beauty captured. See how many women your looks and your style captured. But what you gonna do when your self-dug well, are y'all listening? Eventually they run dry. Some of you grew up in the rural where you had wells and you had to get somebody to dig another well because wells run dry. And I want to present to you now a great sipper. A great sipper. King Solomon was one of the greatest sippers I know of. Greg, he sipped so much, they called him the wisest man who lived on the other side of Christ. He might have been wise, but money, I question his wisdom. Barbara's looking at me. Why would the Bible? Well, I said, I question any man who has 700 wives and 300 girlfriends. Are y'all gonna pray with me? If he was so wise, he would have known if he had one, that was more than he could handle. He had money, he had stuff, he had things, but as he was coming down near the end of his life, there's a word he uses 38 times. Listen to him in Ecclesiastes 1:2, meaningless, meaningless. Wait a minute, Solomon. Everybody wants to be like you. Any man who can get away with having 700 wives and 300 girlfriends got it made. Solomon said meaningless. Meaningless. And then he adds a footnote. Everything, after you've sipped from your self-dug well, Solomon says, it's meaningless. It's meaningless. What about you? How long you been sipping from your self-dug well? Man, woman, answer me. How long have you been sipping? Years? Decades? Several decades? Are you going to wind up like Alexander the Third? Tough Barber, you know about him. Alexander the Third was a ruler of Macedon, the creator of an awesome empire. That empire, Pat, included Greece, Persia, Egypt, and many of the regions beyond. And it got so popular that they started calling him Alexander the Great, because he had conquered so many regions. And it is said of Alexander, when he saw that the breadth of his domain, he wept. Well, why would somebody as great as Alexander weep? Because there were no more worlds. Men, what's going to happen when there are no more women to be conquered? Women, yes, you're fine and vivacious and lovely and smell good. What's going to happen when there are no more men to be conquered? Are you going to sit down somewhere and weep? What happens when you get a craving that all of your exploits? Consequently, the prophet got some juicy stuff for us today. And it ain't not like what y'all call juiciness. If you get something on murders, you call up on the telephone talking about, I got some juicy gossip. He has some juicy, moist, and watery advice. He says, to every craving and sipping soul, I have some juicy news. And the first thing, as we look at the text today, Jerome, he lifts before us partakers, the partakers. Now, before I get too deeply involved in verse 1, there is a word. Good to see you, Lance. I don't want to run over. It's a simple word. We can easily read this text and run over this word, but it's important. It starts out, come. Why would it start out that way? It starts out that way, Stanley, because all things are now ready. And there is a guest list. Your name, my name, are on the guest list. Now when we read the Bible, often when we see the word come, we think mostly that it's an attention device. But it's more than getting our attention in the text. I see it as a slight tone of pity. Now, though we say that Isaiah is a prophet, I want to submit to us today. Can I talk to you?